If you had to choose one or the other, which would you go for? A competitive game that is fun or one that is balanced? And are these things always mutually exclusive? Overwatch is, at least seemingly, in a perpetual state of conflict. On one side, it's a casual game that is very easy to get into with amazing mass appeal. And on the other side, Blizzard is trying to shove esports so far down our throats that you can't even escape it anymore. And this conflict seeps into every aspect of the game. How do you balance a game without ruining the inclusivity that made it so successful and fun? Well, for one, you have to be aware of your own limitations, and that is something that I feel Team 4 over at Blizzard has not considered well enough in recent memory. Can we do this or that thing without inherently breaking the game? It's a question you have to ask yourself, and it's one that I think the devs should take more seriously, because a lot of the balance changes and additions to the hero roster that seek to make the game more fun do exactly that. Break it. An ever-evolving meta is the one thing, but what's happening in Overwatch is essentially that we are relearning how to play the game on a very fundamental level. Something that worked perfectly fine 2 months ago might no longer be viable today. Between triple tank, dive, and double sniper, we are looking at 3 very different ways of playing the game. And where you might think that the most flexible players would survive in this kind of environment, the opposite is true. To quote Sideshow, analyst for the Overwatch League here, the winner of a major patch tournament is rarely the one who adapts the most. In fact, it's often the one who has to adapt the least. It's much like in World of Warcraft where, depending on the expansion or current patch, classes take turns in being broken because they can't all be viable at the same time. The player that flexibly adjusts to any meta is not the one benefiting from this. It's the player whose turn it is to enjoy their main finally being broken. And I mean, most of the competitive players out there have seen this phenomenon, right? How somebody was stuck in a rating for the last handful of seasons but suddenly managed to skyrocket the rating on the back of a recently patched character. Rather than adding to the gameplay experience with new heroes and hero changes, the developers are challenging our perception of how the game is supposed to be played. And if we buy into a game that is a live service, having it play out completely differently from one month to another just is not a great feeling. So as much as new heroes who bring fundamentally new toolkits to the game might be seen as fun and exciting content drops, they are destroying the limitations of the game that previously dictated the basic rules of play that we all could adhere to. But when talking about basic limitations, I don't just mean the framework of rules or standard play that we all have learned in grueling fashion through trial and error. I'm also looking at it from a very technical perspective. Doomfist is a very good example here, a character that, relative to the netcode the game is based on, is an infuriatingly buggy mess to play as and an even more unfun hero to play against. How many times did you play Doomfist and you faced right through your target? How many kills were you scammed out of as Doomfist? And how often were you one-shot out of nowhere by an opposing Doomfist? A lot of people argue that he is not very well balanced, he is undeniably a mess from a technical perspective, and without a doubt, extremely unfun to play against. So why does Doomfist exist? In a recent interview that I've seen on Your Overwatch, link can be found in the top right corner, we have gotten some insight on where hero ideas come from.
Heroes can kind of come from 3 places. What's a gameplay need that we have? What's the story beat that we want to kind of get at? Or what's a cool picture that an artist has drawn? It's more about finding what fits for the overall kit of a hero.
This statement allows us to make some more educated suggestions on a number of characters that have been introduced to the game since launch. A number of characters that, arguably, are not very healthy for the game. Case in point, Doomfist. Doomfist was added to the game because of a narrative that Blizzard was almost forced to pursue thanks to Terios and the hype he created surrounding the idea of a character that canonically didn't even exist in any tangible way. Nobody asked for a character that one-shots us, nobody asked for a character that juggles us, and nobody asked for a character that was so messy to play with and against that a lot of us question its very existence in the first place. As fun as it is to run around and one-shot other players when you don't face through your opponents, as unfun it is to play against them. And I'm not talking about fairness here, that's not at all my point. It's just the fact that more characters were added that take away our ability to effectively play the game by either juggling or outright one-shotting us, where there was no need for them to exist based on gameplay. Speaking of characters that make it so you can't play the game, Sombra. Another narratively driven addition to the game that was not needed at all. Again, it's fun to hack somebody and watch them run around in panic as they can't use any of their abilities, but it is as much of an unnecessary addition as it is an unfun experience to be involved in on the opposing side. And all of these are now factors to be taken into consideration when talking about balance. 2 factors appears that were we to prioritize gameplay balance over story beats and marketing hype, wouldn't have been issues to begin with. So it looks like we could conclude that fun for the one playing the character is always a priority over the overall health and balance of the game. And as long as the developers focus on that, we will never be able to reach any sort of equilibrium between a fun and balanced competitive experience. But consider the following. All this talk we had recently on the channel about how seasonal events are not meaningful content drops, and yet they are the only big patches outside of, you guessed it, new characters and maps. It's almost like I'm pursuing some kind of agenda to try and push Blizzard towards creating more diverse and meaningful content that does not consist of rehashed, poorly made arcade game modes and a truckload of skins. It's almost like the idea of pursuing an ongoing narrative in story-based PvE content would be a great way to give players a reason to keep logging in without having to reinvent the goddamn wheel every time they unleash one of their monstrosities upon us in competitive play. Everything is connected, the Illuminati exist, and Jeff Kaplan is their leader. Okay, yes, sure, I won't lie if I said I didn't try to pull a random topic out of my ass like I did for my last video. I know how annoying it can get for the viewer to keep hearing about the same thing, but to my credit, I hope at least I keep adding to it, you know, different perspectives and reasons, and that doesn't make it better at all, does it? But seriously, look at how everything is connected. We have already talked about the lack of incentive that the devs give players to even log into the game and even explored why incentives are so important in video games. We talked about why seasonal events are great additions to an already fleshed out update cycle but should not be considered meaningful content drops. And now we have talked about why the actual content drops consisting of new heroes are not healthy for the game in the long run because the devs are so keen on making every hero unique that they have to reinvent the wheel every time while fundamentally changing the way we play the game. You see, World of Warcraft 2 has seasonal events. In fact, that's where the inspiration came from in the first place to add something like this to Overwatch. But they are not considered main content. Only a fraction of players even participates in seasonal events and micro events in WoW. And yet, in Overwatch, this is all we're getting. Even if it means to sell an expansion or a season pass or whatever, I feel like we need main content drops that push the narrative of Overwatch forward the same way WoW does. And then seasonal events would be an awesome addition to it. And where you might say that there's a big difference between an MMORPG and a PvP only hero shooter, think again. Even Fortnite has an ongoing narrative that it evolves throughout its seasons. There is really no excuse to not do the same when your currently biggest competitor is doing your job so much better than you while you are busy getting sponsors for your esport event. Because right now, if you are trying so hard to push the game as an esport but you still have to cater to the casual players who are not interested in it, the only way to do that is by adding more content. And if your only content drops consist of maps, heroes, and skins, then you're gonna lose them eventually while constantly challenging the competitive balance of your game. I do not believe that you can maintain a healthy equilibrium between fun and balance in the game by constantly adding new characters at such a fast pace. It just messes with the game and makes players unhappy when they realize that there's another hero that makes it so they can't effectively play the game anymore. Like getting juggled or booped around by the overtime stalling machine that is Hammond. He is not inherently broken, I don't think, but he's still an annoyance. And for anyone who is not interested in playing tanks, the addition of Hammond as a content drop really doesn't matter or feel good. A healthy level of balance in combination with your esports effort is likely to keep your competitive players happy, while the addition of new game modes and story-driven PvE content is going to keep your casual players happy who demand new content to keep them engaged. And with that, I hope I finally put an end to my series of videos explaining why I believe that this is a better way to approach the future of Overwatch. But hey, if you are tired of hearing me talk about this, drop a dislike on the video. Of course, if you feel like I did a good job of adding to the discussion, a like would be much appreciated. And as always, you are more than welcome to leave your own thoughts and opinions on the subject in question down in the comment section below. I'ma call it a day now as I return to my perpetual state of panic over which topic I should cover for my next upload slot. So until then, my friends, thank you everybody so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Now here's a bit of an extra clip for all of you who really care. The reason I have not directly addressed the whole hashtag Revert Mercy thing is because, for one, it did not fit the narrative of the video, and furthermore, it's an echo chamber. As much as the devs are playing jump rope with Mercy and her balance to fun ratio, the people who would most benefit from such a video are the exact people who refuse to have their opinion challenged, which means it's kind of a waste of time. To give a TLDR for the curious, anyone who is not wearing nostalgia on their sleeves knows shows how unhealthy the old Mercy was for the game. She promoted her team to play in a thoughtless fashion that had the more feeds so she can res. The Mercy who reses first usually loses, and playing hide and seek was generally not very fun. I honestly believe the only reason people say that took more skill than Valkyrie is simply because of the game-changing impact it had on the match. Hiding and pressing Q does not take skill, neither does telling your team to die. The accusation that DPS players forced this playstyle on Mercy and the claim that most Mercies even knew what the word tempo res meant is an outright joke. Straight up fake news, my dudes. It was prominent, it happened all the time, and the developers agreed with the community that it's not fun. Furthermore, you have to keep in mind that Mercy is an introductory hero like Soldier 76. They are meant to be easy picks. All these ideas people have to add depth and skill requirements to a kit, sure, those might be good ideas, but it literally contradicts the point of Mercy existing in the first place. An easy to pick up support anyone can play to help. You can't turn Mercy into a hero that she was not meant to be. Well, those are my 2 cents on the matter. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope to see you all next time.